Welcome to A Date with Darkness podcast, where I will be discussing the impact of hurtful and abusive relationships and how to overcome them so that you can move through your pain and get to the kind of healthy relationships you want, need, and deserve. I'm Dr. Natalie Jones. I'm a licensed psychotherapist based in California. While I hope that you find this podcast educational and informational, please note it should not be substituted for treatment with a licensed mental health professional. Also, due to the nature of the podcast, some of the information presented on the show can be sensitive to some of my listeners, so please note that listener discretion is advised. Hello and welcome back to another installment of A Date with Darkness podcast. Super excited to have you back. And so I want to talk to you guys a little bit about why narcissists are attracted to people like you. Okay, so I saw this post recently, and I've seen like some sort of variation of it where like someone will say that some therapists will say that like not all people are narcissists or something like that, and this and that, some sort of just sort of derivation of that, right? Like where everybody's not a narcissist or everybody that you think is a narcissist is not, right? And it's just like you can tell that people don't necessarily understand narcissism, or they're kind of repeating something that they've heard from elsewhere. So one of the things that victims of narcissistic abuse experience is, particularly if you were raised in a narcissistic family or by narcissistic parents, one of the things that you experience is that you typically do attract narcissistic people, right? Like it seems to be like almost like a conundrum of sorts where you may have multiple people. You find that you have multiple people, whether it be friendships, work relationships, romantic relationships. So you find that you have a lot of people that just, it's like a phenomenon where you have all of these narcissistic people in your life, right? And so, and it's not just you, it's like when your self-awareness gets raised, whether through therapy and all of whatnot, your awareness is raised and you start to realize like, holy cow, holy banana, Batman. I'm like, I've got all these narcissists in my life. What the heck is going on? Right. And it's because you go through life, especially again, if you were raised by parents that were narcissistic or you grew up in a narcissistic family, all of your life, you've been groomed to show up in a certain way. Right. And there's oftentimes a conditioning that goes into, good people, the non-narcissistic people, especially in the family. You're told to be the better person or be the bigger person, or you need to humble yourself, or you need to forgive and forget and let go, and you need to be good, right? There's all these phrases and these ways in where you are conditioned to be good and to let go of your boundaries and to allow people like that to take advantage of. You are conditioned for that. I don't care what anybody says, because your parents are grooming you, right? Or your family is grooming you to be taken advantage of, right? And while it works for their own good, for in the time being, it also is applicable to other people out in the real world. And you grow up thinking like this is the norm, right? This is like how this is how relationships should be. This is what I've always been taught. I don't know how to deviate from that, because this is all I've ever been taught or all I've ever been shown, right? Even though logically you may feel like it doesn't feel good, you have been behaviorally and socially taught how to show up in the world and with people in a certain way, right? And then once your brain is sort of cemented that in, it's really hard to rewire or undo the wiring that's already been set down in your brain in terms of showing up in that way, right? And so, you are more prone to attract narcissistic people. And a lot of times people get caught up in like, why do I keep attracting narcissistic people? and or feeling like there's something about you. And I'm here to tell you that's not true, right? Yes, it is true, and yes, it's not true. It is true. It's not true because if you think about it, realistically speaking, narcissistic people try to show up with everyone, right? They try everybody. If they are narcissists, true and true, this is a personality trait, right? And so they try to show up with everybody. It's almost kind of like they go around knocking on everybody's door to see who's going to open, right? And if you're the one that opens, you are the one that's going to get to experience that, right? But there are certain people who may open their door, certain people who have, ring or whatever, don't open their door, whatever, right? That they're not going to be open to experiencing that person. So I think that's where it turns into a yes, because you've been groomed to always open up the door to a pathological stranger, right? And so I think that's where it gets to be a little tricky, whereas other people have not, or other people do open the door, but they don't show up in the same way that you do, right? So it is possible for narcissists to be in a relationship with another narcissistic person. It is possible. It happens all the time, just like it happens all the time with narcissists and empaths, right? You both are going to show up differently in the relationship, and they get something from both of you, right? But how they show up with both of you is going to be a little bit different, if that makes sense. So, I think, whenever you think about it, like, you have a light, you have an energy that people are attracted to. A lot of people are often drawn to people that have light energy, who are enthusiastic, who are have a desire for relationships and connections, right? So I think that becomes appealing to narcissistic people, because it shows that when you're going to roll up your sleeves here, and you're going to dig in deep, and like you're going to really put all of your effort in to make this thing with me work. So let's see how chaotic I can get. Let's see how much suffering I can dish out onto you, and let's see how you're willing to roll up the sleeves to be with me, right? And let's see just how wild of a roller coaster ride we can go on, in order for you to be with me. But they are really attracted to the light, the energy, the love, again, because that may not have been something that they've necessarily experienced, but it also means that there's a stability there. There is a person that is invested in them in the relationship, and people really dig that. Narcissistic people really dig that, right? And most of the time, they know right from the jump that it's going to be one-sided, right? After the love bombing, when they start love bombing with the intent that it's already going to be one-sided. Like, I'm going to leave you, you just don't know it yet, or I'm going to make you suffer, you just don't know it yet. Um, And they do that because they know that you're going to be more invested in them than they are in you, or than they appear to be in you and in the relationship. And I say appear to be because even if a narcissist ghosts or goes cold, or walks away, or has another relationship, again, that's how things appear on the outside, like they've moved on, or like they don't give a damn, or whatever. But again, that is an appearance. And that is done. It's almost like a smoke screen. And so even if they're with somebody else, even if they're doing other things, 9.99 times out of 10, they're still watching you and still very obsessed with you and what you're doing, because they get off on watching you to see how you handle their mistreatment of you. So there's a certain part of them that sort of likes watching you like a movie to see if you're suffering. And I think social media is a great um It allows for people to do a lot more spying than what could be done back in the day, right? Because social media is like a third party, but a lot of times, people will sort of, if they got mistreated or done wrong by a narcissist, they'll oftentimes share on social media, and a narcissist can watch your stories and your posts and your things like that to see how you process how they've treated you. And if they don't do it that way, then they do it through, friends and family and so on and so forth. There's a variety of tactics that they use to sort of spy on you. And again, that sort of willingness to hang in there and endure that suffering. So how do you suffer? And there is sort of this glee in watching you suffer. But then, just watching you and seeing how it gets when it's really bad, right? And then, maybe even coming back in and out to see, to shake it up a little bit, right? That in and out to give you this false hope and to shake it up a little bit. There is an ego boost in watching you suffer over them. And then, with an empathetic person, a lot of times a narcissistic person is drawn to you because you guys, we connect over a trauma bond. I've had some stuff happen to me. You've had some stuff happen to you. And we talk about that right from the beginning, and we're immediately connected because you've been through things and I've been through things, and we're bonded now because we've both been through things and we poured our heart out too early, typically. And now we're connected. We have the false sense of connection very early because more than likely we probably overshared way too early. Um, let's see. And I think there is a siphoning of energy and identity. So, like, if you're an empath, you tend to give and share and, be open and honest, right? And they love that, right? Because they're the opposite. And like, I get to, if a narcissist would get to sort of siphon your energy and like take aspects of your personality and like do all the things, right? And to say that, okay, well, you've, you've given me something and now I can take from you. And I have that sense of power over you, and you belong to me now because you are an energy source that gives freely. And again, if you've been conditioned to do that, you may not have boundaries around managing your energy and how you show up for folks like that. And especially if you can't manage emotions too, that's the other thing. Difficulty managing emotions. So, if you look for validation in others and you show up and you're easily frustrated, narcissistic people really love that because whether the attention that they get from you is good or bad, as long as it's attention, they love that, right? If they show up, now, if they get with another narcissistic person, a lot of times they may readily commit a lot faster and they will idolize that person. And so they actually may become more like you, where they sort of put that person up on a pedestal and they idolize and they do all the things for them that they never did for you, or all the things you said you wanted, they'll freely give to somebody else, right? And that's kind of how they sort of put other people on a pedestal. And the way that they show up with people that are also narcissistic is like we're transactional, right? And we understand transactions. And so if I understand transactions and you understand transactions and you're okay with it, then I know I need to provide a certain service for you in order for you to provide a certain service for me. And we're okay with that. And we can, we understand each other in that way. And so I think that's the thing, too, that becomes attractive. We're both shallow. We are both, we're both drawn to attractiveness. So there is a likeness there and a mutual understanding there. And also, too, it can turn into a competition. So it's not uncommon for two narcissists to get together and then there's like a one-upsmanship game where we're competing with each other. We're competing to see who looks better, who's got more people interested in them, who's having the most affairs, and things like that. And so there is also like that competitive nature and that jealousy, right? And sometimes they'll poke the bear on each other, right? And to cause these emotional outbursts. So they understand each other in a way and they provoke each other in a way to get certain reactions. So I hope that helps. This is a quick little podcast for today. So until next time, guys, take care of yourselves and be well. Bye for now.